Guys, welcome to Relaxed Running. I'm Tyson Popplestone, the coach at Relaxed Running and host of the Relaxed Running podcast. Now, if I boiled down every single inbox message that I got from community level athletes, I would bet a good amount of money on the fact that the most common question I get is, how can I improve my 5K PB? I think there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, it's a really common event in the community with things like park runs and other community fun runs. But also, it's a really nice place to start competing. It's not crazy far and it's not super short. It combines a couple of factors. So today, that's exactly what I want to address. How can we get you running faster over the 5K distance? Before we get into it, I think it's really important just to acknowledge the fact that there are so many levels to athletic performance. So depending on exactly where you're at in your running journey is going to dictate what specifically we focus on. Now, the good news for you, assuming you're a relatively new runner, is there's a few things we can do in and around your training specifically, which in the course of a couple of months is going to see some really big breakthroughs in not only how you feel when you run, but also how fast you're able to run, which is why you stopped by here. So how can we get you running faster over 5K? The first thing we want to look at is your aerobic capacity. If you're a brand new runner, your aerobic capacity is essentially your ability to transport oxygen around your body more effectively. The good news for you is with consistency and patience, this can be done just by showing up day after day with even a relatively light training program. One of the most helpful things that you can do is just decide that over the course of 6 weeks, you're going to only miss a certain amount of days of running. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go out there and be running an hour a day. That'd be silly for a brand new runner. But what you might want to do is work with a coach of yours or a friend of yours who's got more to do with the running and come up with a helpful training program for the level of fitness that you're currently at. The reason we do this is because without adjusting absolutely any other part of our running training, we can see huge improvements just by improving the aerobic capacity. The reason this is so beneficial is because what you start with as a runner is going to change dramatically in 6 weeks. Too many athletes start overcomplicating the process, start looking at gear and diets and nutrition and sleep when the main ingredient to improve running performance is actually being consistent with your running. So if you haven't got a training program set in place yet, which is designed for your own fitness level, designed for your own history in the sport, I highly encourage you to get one. One of the big focuses with the athletes that I coach here at Relaxed Running is making sure their training program is specifically suited to what it is that they're capable of doing and where it is that they would like to go with their running. So if you'd like to look at potentially getting some coaching assistance from me, I've linked my coaching link in the tab below. Make sure you reach out, let me know a little bit about yourself, what you're training for. You and I can line up a Zoom call and tick off the things that we're about to discuss in this video in a little more detail, more specifically tailored to you. Once you get comfortable with regular running, with consistent running, and once your body's used to the fact that you're going to be out there on a regular basis, you can start to inject just once a week some shorter, faster sessions into your training week. With the athletes that I coach, this is often on a Tuesday. Now, if the target of an athlete that I'm working with is to beat their 5K personal best, we're going to want to do some work at around 5K pace and faster. The reason we want to do this is multifaceted. First of all, when you get out there on race day, you don't want race pace to feel as though it's a massive shock to your system. You want your body to be used to running at the pace that you're required to run to see you run this PB. So that session might look like a set of 400s and 800s and some Ks, maybe some tempo work or a combination of all of these things in some capacity. Because with regular exposure to faster work, your ability mentally to handle the pace that you're required to run is increased. But more than that, the actual physiological benefits that take place when you're running at a faster pace is improved as well. Your body's ability to deal with the buildup of CO2 in the bloodstream is increased. You learn to relax under pressure and you just put yourself in a certain state of fatigue, which is going to become very familiar as you start to race more. Now, once you're at this point, you've increased your aerobic capacity, you've started to inject a little more speed into your week, your running's getting a little bit more serious. You're probably starting to increase the distance that you're running from where you were when you started. I would really encourage you to start looking at getting a strength routine together. Now, depending on what specifically you're trying to get out of a strength routine is going to dictate how often you're doing it. I would really encourage you to speak to someone who has more experience than you in this field to find a routine that works in and amongst your lifestyle, your family commitments, your running commitments, your work commitments. Maybe it's 20 minutes a few times a week. Maybe it's an hour a couple of times a week. A really good place to start is online Pilates sessions, which are aimed towards distance runners. The reason these are great is because they're non-weight bearing in the sense that you're not going to have any extra weight. These coaches are going to guide you through the technique element of it. The reason that strength training in your running training program is really important is because as your distance start to increase, the pressure on your joints is going to start to increase. Now, having relatively weak muscles is just going to load those joints up even more. If you can not only develop your strength in the gym, it's not only going to complement your running, it's going to complement how you feel when you finish your running. So another step that you can take is look at developing a strength routine. The fourth thing that I really want to emphasize is coming up with a race strategy. Now, the reason a race strategy is important is because you might be the fittest you've ever been before. Maybe you've gone out and you've set your original best time and you're thinking, okay, I can beat that time by 2 minutes now. And you just go, all right, I'll just run as fast as I can for as long as I can. Very quickly, we start to realize that this is a really negative way to approach a race. Firstly, because it leaves us fatigued about 400 meters into the run. And secondly, when we miss our time or beating the original time that we've set, then we leave with lower confidence. So you want to have clear expectations on what it is you're trying to achieve. Say you're trying to break 20 minutes for 5K. That means that each K needs to be 4 minutes per K. Now, if you're going out there and thinking, okay, I want to break 20 minutes and your first kilometer is 3 minutes 20, that's much too quick. What I would encourage you to do, and what I encourage athletes that I work with, is when they're trying to break 20 minutes, get to 3Ks in about 12 minutes or slightly over. If you can get there feeling really comfortable, then that last 2 kilometers, it is incredible how much you can draw on yourself when you know that you're on pace to achieve the goal that you've set. You start to develop momentum, you start to develop confidence, and if there's other athletes around you that you can start to pass, that only adds fuel to the fire that you're on track to smash the goal that you set out to do. So rather than starting super quick and having the complete opposite response to what I just explained, be clear on your goal, be clear on the kilometer splits you need, and then gradually hold that until 3K, and if you can pick it up from there, take it home at a much faster pace. The last thing I want to encourage you to do is get some regular structure in your training routine. Don't guess your way through your training. Don't think, okay, I'll do strength today because I can, I'll do distance today because I can. Come up with some kind of formula where you don't have to think so much about how to structure it. Just eliminate that stress from your training routine. Just know that you've got to do 3 strength and 3 to 4 runs per week. And if you know what days you're doing those on, then you can eliminate the stress of trying to come up with that during the week. Sure, there'll be times where you have to adjust it and change it, but having that foundation in place is really important to consistency and seeing your development take place over time. As I said, I work with a number of athletes all around the world at a community level, helping them improve their own personal best. Now, there's no surprises that we see athletes smash their times so consistently. Just a couple of weeks ago here in Melbourne, we had a Melbourne athlete, Brock, take 4 minutes off his half marathon time. What we did in his training wasn't rocket science. It just combined a number of factors that are really important in running performance and made an emphasis on consistency to see him run that time. There's no difference between Brock and you. You are able to take off a huge amount of your times. You just need a little bit of guidance. So if you'd like to kickstart with a Zoom call to have a conversation about how we might be able to work together, do that. I've also linked in the show notes below our training hub, which gives you access to not only our blogs, but expert video resources from elite runners and professionals in and around the running scene. So if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't gone and listened to the Relax Running podcast, do that as well. Happy training. If I can be of any help, I'd be more than willing to be. Good luck, and I can't wait to see you improve this 5K PB.